Good evening. I'm audible, I'm visible. Good evening, Nisha. Good evening, Lalita. Falguni, good evening. I'm audible, visible. Can you just give me a thumbs up so I know that I'm audible and visible? Perfect. Perfect. Good evening. We'll wait for 1 to 2 minutes and then we'll begin. Okay. Good evening, good evening, good evening. It's good to see you all again. Good evening. Happy New Year to all of you. Happy New Year. Good evening. Okay. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. I should be audible, I should be visible. No issues at all. Okay. And now, yes. Perfect. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Yes, Nivesh, I'll talk about art and culture, ancient medieval. Don't worry about that. Every batch which is coming through is me only. Don't worry about that. 16 January morning batch, ancient medieval art and culture is me only. Good evening, good evening. Okay. As I said, I'm waiting 2 minutes for everybody to join in and thereafter we'll begin. Good evening, good evening. I'm all good. Happy New Year to all of you. I hope your preparation is going well. Yes, Pratham, a lot of you are asking me the same question. 16 January, ancient medieval art and culture. Morning batch, it's me. Thereafter, the weekend batch is also me and evening is also me. So there's no other batch except for the last one in which unfortunately I was not able to teach you art and culture. Now I will be taking all of it, so don't have to worry. The batch which starts on 16 January, ancient medieval art and culture, is me only, and world history is also me. Okay. Right. So I think I'm waiting again for people to join in. I'm going to wait 1 more minute and then we'll begin. Right. Mansa, I think, see, my audio and my video should be totally clear. And as of right now, everybody is telling me that. So if there's an issue, you just refresh. Okay. So let's begin our discussion for today. Before we do that, as always, please remember you should be attempting these paper. The PTS examinations are going in the background every Sunday. So the last paper was history, the second paper. Thereafter, you will have modern at 2 papers more. But you should be attempting this from time to time. Irrespective of preparation, you should be attempting this because this gives you an understanding of how questions are asked. You should be doing this from time to time. It started in 6th way back 6th November, but every Sunday we are having this, and I hope that you're attempting it. Now, what is the agenda for today? We have to discuss mains oriented topics, and 5 of these. The first one will discuss Karnataka and Maharashtra border issue, which was in the news just recently. Then smuggling in India report, a very interesting one in which even the finance minister has talked about smuggling in tangentially when we're talking about gold. Then we'll talk about 2 very important art and culture, but more important in the context of current affairs based art and culture. Prasad project and the Central Vista redevelopment project. What are the different aspects? This is specifically out of Yojana. This time Yojana was on art and architecture, and we've chosen this because this is the most relevant and can come in the examination. And then GI. So this will give me an understanding of how your preparation is going, and more than that, I will be also able to tell you about GI, because a lot of things about GI students confuse. So we'll be talking about the mains questions coming from these areas, but these are the 5 topics which we are going to discuss. Now, as always, the protocol is the same. What I'm going to do is, when I start this topic, I'll give you a basic summary in the beginning, then we'll go into the details, and thereafter the mains question. So if everybody is ready, can we begin? We can start? Great. Okay. So let's talk about Karnataka and Maharashtra border row and issue itself. Let's talk about it. Now, there's a basic timeline, and this issue is not very, very new. It's a very old issue. But let's try to understand what actually has happened in the past 50, 60 years, and more than that, why is this issue become so relevant right now? So the story goes like this. There's a very interesting taluk which comes in Maharashtra, which is called the Jat taluk, and it's a very drought prone area. And what has happened is that for the past 2 to 3 years, Jat taluk has been going into drought. And now the Jat taluk, which is on the Maharashtra-Karnataka border, its local self-government, the panchayat itself, passed a resolution that because Maharashtra is not taking care of us, we would like to be in Karnataka. And it also has a substantial Kannada-speaking population. So the Jat taluk issue was that a taluk, though it has no legal basis, though it has no real power, the panchayat resolution was that we want to be part of Karnataka. Right now it is part of Maharashtra. So the CM of Karnataka recently said that we are going to seriously pursue the Jat taluk concept, and we will try to get it or make it a part of Karnataka. And what happened was that in retaliation to this statement, the CM of Maharashtra thereafter argued that we want something which has always been ours, and the issue which has been now very close to 50 years of this conflict between Maharashtra and Karnataka over Belgaum, or Belagavi as it is called, has now again come to the forefront. So basically, the starting point is out of Jat taluk. However, it has now taken out something out of the pages of history, and from time to time, since 2004 and 2006, this issue has been in the Supreme Court also, but recently it has become very, very prominent and has come into the foray itself. Now the point is, what is this area? The area which we are talking about is this area called Belagavi, but was later renamed by Karnataka to Belgaum. Now, the story starts when we talk about the State Reorganizations Act of 1956. So, Belagavi, Belgaum has a substantial Marathi-speaking population. Maharashtra wants it to be a part of Maharashtra itself, and Karnataka got it under the States Reorganization Act of 1956. So first it became a part of Mysore. Mysore state technically became Karnataka. Therefore, this district itself was given to Karnataka under the States Reorganization Act of 1956. This is the starting point. This starting point in turn led to Maharashtra, though it was the larger Maharashtra with Gujarat including, they used a provision within the State Reorganization Act 21(2)(b), wherein they could create a basic resolution or could point out to the Home Ministry that there is a conflict in border demarcation. So the linguistic border demarcation here problem was that Belagavi or Belgaum and areas around it, there are 3-4 important districts we are talking about, but the most contagious one being this one. And under 21(2)(b), under the section of State Reorganization Act 21(2)(b), they said that we would like you to reconsider this demarcation. And what happens is, in 1966, the Prime Minister then appoints a one-man committee, which is called the Mahajan Commission. And under the Mahajan Commission, what happens is that the Mahajan Commission, the Chief Justice, he was the former Chief Justice, he reconsidered and saw the basic district and linguistic organization of this border between Maharashtra and Karnataka. But he said that Belgaum or Belagavi should be under Karnataka only. But he talked about transferring 264 villages out of Karnataka to Maharashtra. Thereafter, Maharashtra rejected this commission, and this issue now became a major issue between Maharashtra and Karnataka over the Belgaum concept and generally the border demarcation based on Marathi and Kannada speaking villages. Thereafter, in 2004, Maharashtra took this issue to the Supreme Court. So what Karnataka did was that it renamed Belagavi to Belgaum and made it to the second capital of Karnataka. And in 2006, though this is a sub judice issue, which is that it is still going on in the Supreme Court said that we would not like to get into it too much, and we want mutual negotiations to be the way to get to a solution of this issue. And since 2006, now in 2022, this issue has again flared up. So this is the basic story behind the Maharashtra-Karnataka issue. So the first point is, without going into the nitty-gritty of the topic, there are villages both on Karnataka and Maharashtra border, because Karnataka also claims about Kolhapur and a lot of different districts were saying that they are Kannada speaking. There are villages which are Kannada speaking but in Maharashtra, Marathi speaking but in Karnataka. And the basic point of the matter is the genesis is in the States Reorganization Act of 1956 itself. And since then, it has been a friction point between Karnataka and Maharashtra. This is the basic timeline you need to know. Other than that, what is going to be the way forward, we will discuss. But this only tells you that still there are so many issues in the state demarcation or delimitation in India that still there are these type of issues which persist in that sense. So the first point is, do you understand the larger context here? That how did this come up and how is it persisting? First point is this okay? Okay, perfect. So, first point, this issue stems out of a resolution coming out of the Jat Taluk. I'm again repeating myself. The Jat Taluk said, we are in Maharashtra, we want to be part of Karnataka. However, this led to a statement from the CM of Karnataka, thereafter the CM of Maharashtra, and now an age-old issue is again into the public eye. So, when we talk about the Karnataka-Maharashtra border row, the disputed areas is not just Belagavi, it's Belagavi, Karwar and Nipani in northern Karnataka. It's a very long-standing issue since 1956 itself. And on 27 December, the Maharashtra government said, after retaliation from the CM of Karnataka itself, that we will go for inclusion of 865 Marathi-speaking villages from Belagavi, Karwar, Nipani, Bidar, Balki and other Karnataka sectors on the border, and we will make it a part of Maharashtra. So it's a verbal battle as of right now, but the battle has been going on in the Supreme Court since 2006, 2004 itself rather. So the basic point is, as I said, the starting point being the Jat Taluk in Maharashtra saying, we are drought prone, Maharashtra doesn't look after us, we want a solution for that, and therefore they say that we want to be part of Karnataka. The CM of Karnataka says that yes, we would like to pursue the Jat issue very, very seriously. That in turn leads to this retaliation, and now it is in front of you because it becomes relevant for your preparation generally because it's an interstate border dispute. Thereafter, as I said, the history is very simple. Where does it come from? It comes from the 1956 State Reorganization Act, in which Belagavi became a part of Mysore state. Mysore state became Karnataka, and it has close to 8 lakh Marathi speaking population, a very big number in that regard. And itself, Belagavi or Belgaum in that regard is a very important area for both Marathi and Karnataka politics because of the state politics and the local politics in this region itself. Thereafter, as I said, in 1957, 21 2B was used by Maharashtra to raise a question against this demarcation. In 1966, it took them close to 9 years to appoint under Meherchand Mahajan a one-man commission, and that recommended that 264 villages should be transferred to Maharashtra, but Belagavi or Belgaum remained in Karnataka. Maharashtra rejected this commission, and the genesis of the dispute comes through. Now, the point of the matter is very simply, is that when Maharashtra says that we want Belagavi, Karwar, Nipani, Bidar, and Balki under linguistic homogeneity, be saying that the Marathi-speaking villages should be in Maharashtra itself. Therefore, now Karnataka has created a narrative that if that is going to be the criterion, then Kolhapur, Sholapur, and Sangli district should also be in Karnataka, which is in Maharashtra itself. Therefore, there are two basic perspectives here. And see, the history is important because it tells you how state reorganization in India is still going on. So very simply, the Maharashtra side says that we want linguistic homogeneity. We want linguistic homogeneity. We want the fact that Marathi speaking villages should be in Maharashtra. But then Karnataka says that if you are going to take the same type of line, then we also want the Kannada speaking districts, which are predominantly Kannada speaking. Now, this is the problem, that basically this issue is not stemming from the local politics as much as it is about we want our own cultural and linguistic homogeneity. Therefore, this topic is important because it raises two very important questions. First, how do you resolve something like this? How do you resolve something like this? Because this becomes like a case study question. And second is that from time to time it will flare up. Then how do you move forward? How do you move forward? Because the Jath issue is not going to go anywhere. And both the CMs are at a standoff at this point of time. Therefore, the importance of this topic in the larger preparation is linked to interstate border dispute, and over and above that, how do you come out of it? Because as an administrator, it becomes important, because these type of questions are asked in case study in GS paper 4 also, and it is important for GS paper 2 also, because UPSC can ask you a very simple question, that is state reorganization complete in India? And we'll discuss that type of a question when we'll talk about the mains question. But before I go to the way forward and how do we go do what we have to do, is the basic issue clear? Is the basic issue clear? Everybody has to consent to that. Okay, perfect. Shri Prasanna, that's a good point, that can we resolve it by giving equivalent villages to both? But the point of the matter is, it is so politically charged at this point of time that how do you decide that number? Because there are more villages in Karnataka than there in Maharashtra. So you can't give a Marathi speaking village to Karnataka because you have to make it equivalent. So it's a good option, but I technically don't see the way both will agree to it. Now, okay. So everybody is able to understand the issue, which is, it was the Belagavi was part of Mysore state. Mysore state became Karnataka. Marathi speaking, however, remained in Karnataka. Therefore, Maharashtra took it as an issue. They used the 21B 2B in that regard to go against it in the Home Ministry. Thereafter, Mahajan Commission. Remember the name Mahajan because now it becomes relevant. It has been in the news. Mahajan Commission, Meherchand Mahajan Commission. And now let us discuss the larger or more important point. How do you go forward? How do you go forward? Because that is the more important question here. So, first and foremost thing is, everybody has to calm down, because there's a lot of charged politics which is happening. There has been vandalism of vehicles on both sides, and there's a need to make sure that that does not happen again, because if there will be violence, this issue will not go anywhere. This issue will not go anywhere. So the first point is, both Maharashtra and Karnataka need to stop doing politics over it, but that is technically not something we are very good at. But the basic point is violence needs to stop. That is why we're discussing this issue here. Second is that, see, there will be Kannada speaking villages in Maharashtra and there will be Marathi speaking villages in Karnataka. Now, the point of the matter is, as Sri Prasanna said, that either they mutually agree to send all of them which are on the border. But the problem with that approach is, then what do you do which are a little bit more internal? Because that would then totally change the border of Maharashtra and Karnataka, which is equally a problematic aspect. So the point of mutually agreeing to give has a problem, because then there would be interior districts also which could have this type of configuration. Now the point would be central intervention. Now central intervention, which is the center. See, a lot of you are saying, why not a plebiscite? But the point is that plebiscite can be quite divisive also, which is that if you asked a Marathi speaking population in a Marathi village in Karnataka, where do you want to be? They will obviously say Maharashtra. And the same will be true from a Kannada speaking village. But the point is, where do you draw the line? See, as a UPSC aspirant, always remember there is precedence. That if you are going to do it here, then you do it in every district in India, which state they want to be in. Plebiscite is a very big sword where you need a needle. Therefore, that option technically would not go very well in the larger perspective or in the longer run. Therefore, see, mutual agreement as of right now, I don't see, because of the politics which is happening. Central intervention is also not happening because of the fact that it is a politically charged question, and both states' politics is very, very important for the center itself. Now comes judicial. And the problem is that in 2004, this issue did go to the Supreme Court. And the problem is that the Supreme Court in 2006 said that we would not like to explicitly do anything for Belgaum or Belagavi. We want mutual negotiation. So in a way, what has happened is that we are now back to square one in that regard. Because what is happening is that we went to the Supreme Court thinking that they will give us a solution. But the Supreme Court said that mutual negotiations between the two states should be there. So now the point is, then how do you answer this question? What you do is that you try to talk about arbitration, wherein central intervention, center calls both the stakeholders together, politics and violence is kept aside, and what we call as a tenable, a doable plan is created, which can make sure that Belgaum or Belagavi or immediate issue as of right now is controlled. So the point which I am trying to argue here is that you can't give a blunt answer. You can't straightforward say that center should do it. Doesn't make sense. Judiciary has already said that we want mutual negotiation. It's a sub judice issue. It is still in the Supreme Court. Maybe we will get a judgment over it. But as of right now, the only way forward is central intervention in which both stakeholders are brought into confidence, and therefore they could go forward. I know you all have different types of solutions for this. You can use the zonal council, you can use the interstate council, but the point is that when hardline politics comes through, there is a point that all these bodies become useless when there are too many stakeholders. It's about bringing Karnataka and Maharashtra into confidence that we want a solution. If nobody wants a solution, only politics, then there will be no solution. Therefore, it has to be in a way something which is more towards center, bringing both the stakeholders together. Is this clear, everybody? Yes, we should learn from Assam and Meghalaya in that regard. Stakeholders are the two states and the people and the districts. Clear? Now let's try to take a question over this, and you will see how these type of topics come in the mains examination. The Karnataka-Maharashtra border dispute is testimony that the reorganization of the Indian subcontinent is still incomplete. Critically analyze. So it's an interesting question. Critically analyze means that you have to talk about both pro and con, which is that both negative and positive. And it's using the word Indian subcontinent rhetorically, which is that is the map of India. And if we go with internal border demarcation, which is specifically the point it's trying to argue, is it complete or not? And when we do this in class, you already know that reorganization in India can happen on many grounds and it is technically not complete. So let's see how you try to answer this question. So intro, body, conclusion. Don't have to write it in the examination, obviously. In the introduction, you're going to talk about the current affairs. And that is the basic point of being here, which is that you get to know the current affairs aspect. That there has been recent escalation and tensions between Maharashtra and Karnataka over the border issue, specifically Belagavi or Belgaum district, where there have been vandalism of cars. And this is a very age-long issue. Now, in the body, you have to answer both. You have to tell about the dispute also, and also answer the question. So you will say that the dispute stems out of the State Reorganization Act of 1956, and thereafter there have been varying interpretations. Even the Mahajan Commission gave Belgaum or Belagavi to Karnataka, and Maharashtra is not ready to accept that commission itself. And this has been a deadlock. In 2004, it went to the Supreme Court. 2006 Supreme Court said it is mutual negotiation. So again, the UPSC is not asking you the answer to this question. It's asking you, what does it show you? Now you go to the second part of the question, wherein you're talking about, is it incomplete? So you will say that Maharashtra and Karnataka issue shows us that there's still a lot of rough edges which are there. Rough edges are there, and we need to iron them out. Indian subcontinent, Indian map is more or less complete, and there will always be room for reorganization. There are both benefits and disadvantages for reorganization on linguistic boundaries or on linguistic basis itself. And you will take a very balanced approach there by saying that there is both merit for changing the district configuration, but that also creates precedents for other states. And India already has 6 to 7 different border disputes. Therefore, whatever the center does or the judiciary does creates precedents. Therefore, it needs to be very clear in what it's trying to do. And then in the conclusion, you will say that it is testimony that there are issues. It is not testimony to the fact that it is incomplete, but there will always be room for reorganization. Therefore, and a very simple line, therefore, we need to make sure that any action in this area is taken with all stakeholders in confidence. Always make sure you leave it in a very balanced perspective. Make sense, everyone? Okay, perfect. Right. Now, then if this topic is clear, we move to the second one, which is interesting. Smuggling in India report 2021-22. Now, in India, smuggling is something which is not something which we don't know. We have popular imagination in the form of movies such as Pushpa and all. We have generally a lot of movies, serials, a lot of things which portray smuggling in good or bad light, whatever it may be. But the basic point of the matter is smuggling also shows certain types of illegal economies, or what we call as dark economy, which is developing or is very prevalent in India. And all that goes into smuggling is technically leakage. And any leakage is a loss to you and me as a taxpayer, because we need to make sure that there should be no leakage in the larger perspective. Because if we talk about gold, if we talk about currency, anything, if the government is not getting taxes, if it is not accounted for, then it is a problem for you and me both. So smuggling, we all can agree, I hope we can agree, that is a bad thing. But the point of the matter is, how do we see this report tells you another story in itself. So what the smuggling in India report technically tells you is the volume of illegal commodities seized, and this describes the type of illegal smuggled activities, in different operations. There are two basic bodies which will actually seize it: Indian Customs, but the most interesting of them is the Directorate of Revenue Intelligence. The DRI is the nodal agency which looks after smuggling, analyzes the data, and the smuggling in India report comes from itself. Indian Customs is actually more active at the ports and the airports, but the DRI is much more active at the borders, specifically the Myanmar border or the Bangladesh border or the China border, because they are the ones who actually are on the ground looking at intelligence reports about things moving around. Now, why is this topic important? Why is this topic important? Because recently, Nirmala Sitharaman, the finance minister itself, said a very important line. And the line was that she said that can we correlate gold imports with smuggling? It's a very interesting line which she said, in which she is putting it at directly proportional. What she is trying to argue is that when Indian demand goes up for gold and we produce most of the consumer demand in the world is produced in India. It's second biggest consumer of gold we are, but we produce not even 1% of what we consume. So when the demand surges and there is higher imports, if there are higher imports, is there higher instances of smuggling? Meaning, she is trying to argue, are the imports directly proportional to smuggling? That whenever there is a surge in imports, is there a surge in smuggling also? It would make sense, because obviously if there's a lot of demand, smuggling would try to meet it via bypassing the whole concept of Indian customs or whatever there is. Now, the basic point of the matter is, this is why this statement itself of Nirmala Sitharaman makes it a very important issue and brings it to the forefront in that regard. So, the DRI tried to then look into the basic report and look at the data, and now they are going to analyze in the next report in that regard, is there correlation? But we can see that correlation. There's also the World Gold Council, and the World Gold Council as of right now argues smuggling of gold. As of right now, I'm talking about only gold. She would, Nirmala Sitharaman would not care about cigarettes or currency, but actually about gold. So it's gold which we are talking about. And the World Gold Council itself is also trying to talk about 33% increase has been there in gold smuggling. So what everything is indicating is that there is a very big illegal economy in which gold is circulating. Now, this report gives you the quantum. So you don't have to learn the hard data, but what you have to understand is that is this correlation actually existing in the data itself. So let's look at the data. Are you getting the basic point here? Are you getting the basic point? Very good. So you're getting the correlation here. So let's look at the data. See, the DRI has argued that it has seized close to 800 kgs of gold being illegally transferred or transported, close to 400 crores worth of 400 to 500 crore. But what is more interesting is this: 73% of all illegal gold was coming via Myanmar and Bangladesh. And if you look at the data further, it shows that it is technically China, which is the biggest consumer also, which is sending it to Myanmar, and then it is coming to India. So what this report technically is pointing out is that we have an eastern problem. What it means is that our eastern sector is where from which they are trying to smuggle in gold. So 400 crore worth of gold has been seized, and 73% of that was actually seized in Myanmar by the DRI. Therefore, this shows you the geography of smuggling. And because of the long border with Bangladesh itself and Myanmar itself, and because the Myanmar border is even more porous because of the Himalayas itself and the mountain range in that sector, it is astonishing that we've been able to even capture this gold. So the first is a very interesting concept that yes, has been a surge, and that surge is going with high imports also. So the direct proportionality which Nirmala Sitharaman is talking about is actually there. Imports, when there is too much imports, there is more smuggling also, and that can be seen after in the post-COVID world how the gold demand has surged. So smuggling has also surged. But the geography of this is very, very important for you as an administrator, as the person knowing about internal security. It becomes important to know where it is coming from. Further, 1100 lakh crore worth of illegal currency was also seized in the same period, and the US dollar, thereafter the dirhams of the UAE, and the Saudi Arabian riyal are the three currencies which were the most smuggled in that regard. Can you explain to me why is it the UAE and the real which has been the second or the third most smuggled one? Zenith, it can be smuggled in any form. Why is that? It's after US. It's not availability, not money laundering. Understand the Indian diasporic population. Try to understand why. Yes, very good, very good, Haseen, very good, Atira. The fact of the matter is US dollar is universally accepted, but the next two is because Indian diasporic population is in great numbers in the Gulf. Therefore, what they do is a lot of immigrants coming back or going take this currency illegally so as to evade the Indian customs in that regard. So this also tells you is an indicative of where Indians are going at this point of time. It's not that the pound is being smuggled. It's that the fact that Gulf currencies are very, very hot money because of the Indian diasporic population, and they try to evade taxation. Why are doing this? So everything has an indicator. Everything has a meaning in that regard. So first point, gold, which is because we consume too much gold. And second is the way they are pushing in currency also. Further, we also have an interesting thing. 1100 lakh cigarette sticks were also seized, close to 93 crore worth of, and they were also originating from Myanmar and UAE. Now you will ask me, sir, why are they bothered about cigarettes? Because on cigarettes there is a lot of taxation in India. So if they smuggle in cigarettes, they can be sold at a very big margin. So the smuggling happens of cheap cigarettes, and in India there's a lot of custom duty. There's a lot of duty which is put in on the cigarette packets itself. Therefore, they try to smuggling it cheap and then sell it on a huge market or huge margin in the market itself. Therefore, cigarettes is also something which is an interesting smuggling item, and that is why this report becomes interesting in that regard. Same way, 28,000 kilos of narcotics was seized, and this was seized in MP, Tripura, and Maharashtra. This again shows you how geographically it is so balanced. One MP, central India, one Tripura in northeastern sector, and one in Maharashtra, which is technically southern sector. So they have the what we call as the crescent or the curve is there, beautifully made. Maharashtra, MP, Tripura, and coming from the Myanmar sector, coming from the eastern sector, it is very easy to move this narcotics into India. And this is also a very important data that still narcotics are being what we call as heroin, cocaine, or be it marijuana, or be it the different forms of charas, ganja, whatever be the case. The basic point of the matter is still this is a very major economy which exists in India in that sense. Elephant tusk, ivory, again 700 crore worth of still being seized by Indian authorities. And other important items comes under what we call as the cities, which is the exotic species of turtles, seahorses, and different type of reptiles. Now, the first point of the matter is narcotics means any form of drug. The first point is that do you need to learn this data? Obviously, no. But what you need to understand is the quantum and the geography, because that will help you in answering other questions of internal security also, and generally ethics also, and GS paper 2 also. So the basic point of the matter is, why are we doing this topic? Again, repeating myself. First, because the finance minister wanted to see a correlation, which is technically being shown in the report itself. Second, that there is a major economy of narcotics, be it gold, be it illegal substances in India. Third is that where is it coming from is important for our national security itself. And fourth, generally what we are seeing is that the items of smuggling are the standard things which have a lot of value or a lot of margin in the market itself. Make sense, everyone? Perfect. Perfect. Financial year 2021-22. Right. So let's look at a mains question which can come from this area and how they would ask you that type of question in that sense. Okay. Before the mains question, implications I've already taught, but I'll talk about it. See, 3 to 4 things. Geography of the smuggling, which means that the eastern sector is more problematic. The second thing which you need to understand is gold smuggling and imports, which is that there is a direct correlation. Third, which is equally important, is the fact that illegal economy close to 50,000 crores worth of illegal substances are moving around, and the next 2 points deal with how to tackle it. Because at the end of the day, we need to know how to go about it. Tackling it is that the DRI is already doing a good job, but we now know the sector which is problematic. So why not make sure that we are able to hit where it hurts the most, which is the eastern sector. Okay. Now, let's look at the question. You can talk about the golden triangle, you can talk about the golden crescent if you want. You can talk about that. See, the basic point is, Haseen, Vimal, the basic point of the matter is, see, solutions, everybody knows. It's about understanding the quantum. So you see the question, you will understand how they can frame a question. The volume of smuggling in India points out to the enormity of the illegal market and the need for further intervention. Comment. Now, this question is interesting because it's talking about 2 things. First, it's talking about the bigness of it, and second, how do you intervene? So, introduction, body, conclusion. In the introduction, you're going to talk about the report. You're going to say that the smuggling in India report for financial year 21-22 has pointed out that there are basic these items: gold, cigarettes, the illegal substance. These are the things which are being transported, and this economy could be worth 1,000 crores, and it is prevalent in India. Now, once you've given the current affairs, always remember this is how you use current affairs in a mains question. You go into the body. Now it's talking about enormity and further intervention. So 2 parts. How do you get to know about the enormity? 800 crores worth of gold. Direct correlation. Thereafter, the issue of Myanmar. The geography of it points out that Bangladesh and Myanmar 73%, 33% increase in gold smuggling. India, the second biggest consumer after China. And if we are importing everything, this can hurt the economy quite a lot. We don't know if it is real gold also, which is technically being pushed after it is coming into India. So all the data which has been given in this topic gives you the scale of it. Now, further intervention. You will say that the Indian customs and the DRI have been doing a good job, because you can't be critical of them that they have failed, they are useless. Don't talk like that. They have been doing a good job. However, now that we know the geography quite well, where it is coming from, there needs to be now whatever type of solution you can think about. Concentrated awareness campaign, there needs to be raids which need to be pushed in, there needs to be more forces which need to be deployed, the porous nature of the mountainous terrain needs to be tapped through. There should be further and more stringent verification of immigrants coming through. Illegal currency is also a problem. So here you can write within the word limit how much you can write within it, and then conclude by saying that yes, smuggling in India is a problem. There are agencies which are working against it, but they also need to go further. Make sense? Perfect. So the two basic topics related to smuggling and one related to border dispute. Now we come to Prasad project. Now GS paper 1 has art and culture, current affairs. Therefore, two topics related to art and culture, current affairs, very important for you. Need to follow it. Nowadays in prelims examination, both in mains and prelims, current affairs based art and culture questions are coming quite a lot. That is why we are doing it here. So the Prasad project. What is the context? The context is that recently the president added a city, Srisailam, into the Prasad project itself. Therefore, it becomes into the current affairs concept. Now we need to know what is the Prasad project itself. So the Prasad project is technically an acronym for Pilgrimage, Rejuvenation and Spiritual Augmentation Drive. Prasad scheme comes under the Ministry of Tourism, and Srisailam city in Andhra Pradesh has been added to the Prasad project in that regard, and this was done by the President of India. Now, what happens in this is two things happen. First, we need to know why is this city added? Why? What is it known for? Second, what is the scheme itself? And third, what are the cities which were already there? Because the problem is one small current affairs topic, and this is how the chain gets created. First, the static issue of the scheme comes through. Thereafter, what is already there is important, and now the addition is also equally important. So why the pilgrimage town of Srisailam has been added? Andhra Pradesh. First and foremost, this it has been technically added because of the Mallika Arjuna Jyotirlinga temple, which is that this is a Shaivite temple, the Shiva temple itself, and Dravida style, which you can already see here. I can show it to you here, the Gopuram, the Vimana. It's a very old temple. It's part of the Jyotirling of Shiva itself. So Mallikarjun Jyotirling temple becomes important. Which style? It is Dravida style. Dravida style, and over and above that, it also has a very important dam there. So it is very important for irrigation purposes. Also, Srisailam Dam. So it's an important city. It's an important city. Prasad, as I said, pilgrimage, rejuvenation, and spiritual augmentation drive. PRASAD. Prasad. Now, the next most important point is, now we know why. Because it's a Jyotirling temple, it's a Shakti Peeth, very important in that regard. Nowadays, because of these corridors which are being made, you should always remember this. So first point is why Mallikarjun Sri Jyotirlinga temple. Second, Andhra Pradesh, remember this, AP, and there's a dam here also. So remember the dam also. Now, what is the implication? If you add a city into the Prasad's project or the Prasad scheme itself, what happens is it talks about three things: rejuvenation, revivalism, and sustainability. These are three words which are used quite a lot, along with one more, which is prioritized rejuvenation and sustainable. A very important point that it talks about developing. So if you become a Prasad city, it's a very important tag which you get. It allows for development of the pilgrimage center along with its important basic infrastructure, which is entry points, rail, road, water transportation, last mile connectivity, how you can reach the temple, basic tourism, ATM, eco-friendly modes of transport, drinking water, toilets, internet connectivity, the development. So the basic point is that when you go into Prasad, you have a very important push which comes from the state government, but the money is given by the central government. Therefore, there's a major push to make that pilgrimage center better, rejuvenated, sustainable in the long run. So, enhance tourism in a sustainable manner. Please understand, it is it is sustainable. It used to be Prasad. Rakesh, it used to be Prashad. Now it is renamed to this. So I know it used to have an H, now it doesn't. It has, this is the word, this is the exact thing which is the PIB is also giving. So it's about sustainable manner. The word sustainable means that it should be eco-friendly. It has to have certain aspects of green energy also. Then you try to develop the pilgrimage center in such a way that it also leads to economic development and employment generation, because this is something which happens in a lot of redevelopment projects, which is that a lot of shopkeepers, a lot of people around the temple are very close to and are dependent on the temple for their livelihood. And if you redevelop that whole area, most of the temple shops are destroyed, or the things which are around the corridor is destroyed. So what the Prasad scheme does is it specifically tries to make sure that there is economic development and employment generation when we are redeveloping the pilgrimage center itself. Thereafter, you promote local art, culture, handicraft to make sure that that area, Srisailam or any city, is in a way protected, mitigated, and its cultural heritage is preserved. Further, world-class infrastructure, because then you put it on the map, and you also make sure that it's pro-poor tourism, because again this is something, these are two words which have been in the news, and you need to understand this, that tourism needs to be pro-poor in the sense that you can't just destroy the economy of the poor, of the lower strata, to beautify an area. You need to find a way to rejuvenate and rehabilitate in such a way that it does not destroy the poor, and in the end make sure that use the public sector, which is the governmental expertise in managing much bigger temples, to make sure that that city is developed in the right way. A very good example of this would be, for example, Tirupati city, the Venkateshwara temple, that whole city is managed by TTD, and you see how they have made certain spots, how the whole spatial distribution is there, and that ways the Prasad cities are always very well managed, very well developed in that sense. Now, there are, if you add this, it becomes 13. There are technically 12 cities which were recognized under the scheme. Rather than giving you the list, I show you the map, and this tells you the priority of the government itself, how they are trying to make sure that every type of temple and every important Shakti Peeth comes in. So you have Amritsar, you have Kedarnath, Mathura, Ajmer, Dwarka, Varanasi, Gaya, Kamakhya, Puri, Amravati, Kanchipuram, and Velankani. Now you have Sri Salem city also. You add another here. This becomes the 13 cities. Now, this could easily be a very simple question which can come in the exam. That they can give you the list, of these cities and ask you which of them come under the Prasadam scheme. So Prasad scheme that way is important for the city itself, but the cities which are already inscribed are equally important in that sense. So before we go to the main question, three things I'm going to do here. First question which you're asking me, what is pro-poor tourism? What it means is that, see, tourism can be two ways. You have a city, it has been developed in a haphazard way. Haphazard way means that the people who are in slums or the poor people are the ones who have developed in the most haphazard manner itself. So you try to beautify the city. What you do is that you destroy all the slums, you destroy all the shops which are made in makeshift manner. But that impacts the poor the most. So if that is going to be the case, then that is called a anti-poor tourism approach, in which you are destroying the local economy itself. Therefore, you need to have a certain approach in which you are able to rehabilitate the poor also and make sure that they become the part of the larger development of that area also. Make sense, everybody? So till this point, whatever we have done, if there's any issue, we can discuss it here. So Supreme Court is the guardian of fundamental. Prem Kumar, that's a good way of arguing that the Supreme Court has to get involved because of the fundamental rights of the people involved. But it's true for both the sides of the villages. So that argument, this Supreme Court will not get into border disputes too much, because that is a political decision more than a judicial decision in that regard. Okay. Okay. So see, what have we done till this point? Again, repeating. We've done 3 topics till this point. And if there is questions you ask me, three basic topics. We've understood first the concept of how Karnataka and Maharashtra are interlocked in a border dispute, and that stems out of linguistic boundaries, that stems out of the State Reorganization Act, Mahajan Commission, and the problems related to what we call as how do you integrate villages which are on the border, outside the border, and all the politics which is happening around Belgaum. And the way forward in that was central intervention with state negotiation. That was the first topic we did. Second topic, we tried to understand smuggling in India report, in which we tried to understand the nitty-gritty of the data which has been provided to us in the smuggling in India report, and that points out the geography, which is the eastern sector. The problems which are related to that eastern sector is that it has porous borders, and we talked about different forms of smuggling. Gold, which correlates with imports. We talked about illegal currencies. We talked about cigarettes, and we talked about the problems related to what we call as the illegal substances coming through from these areas itself. The third thing which we've done is this scheme, which became part of the news itself, becomes very important for your mains preparation because of the scheme itself, because of what the President of India has done, and the addition of Srisailam city of Andhra Pradesh into the Prasadam scheme. The Prasad scheme doesn't matter. It used to be called PRASHAD. Now it has become PRASAD. Your importance with regards to this is that how does it help in heritage conservation, how does it help in art and culture rejuvenation, sustainability, and 2 basic concepts have been introduced. There are total now 13 cities. 12 are already here. 12 I've given to you on the map, or you look at it here. Now with Srisailam it becomes 13. The basic point of the matter here is there are 2 concepts which were introduced: pro poor tourism and sustainable tourism. And these 2 concepts can be asked to you in tangential way also, which is pro tourism means that tourism and its development and generally should not be done in a way that it destroys the lowest level of the economy. And sustainable tourism means that everything which has been recreated or is being recreated, it has been done by sustainable material and green energy in that sense. Do you need to remember the cities? No, just remember the addition at least. Thereafter, you can go to the 12 cities. I'm giving you the 12 cities, but the most important addition is the most important because it becomes current affairs in that sense. Okay. Right. Okay. So till this point, no other issue as of right now. You understand the three topics? Clear? The new city is Srisalem. Perfect. So let's look. See, pro-poor portion. What do you mean by pro-poor? I'll tell you. I'll give you a very simple example. So there's a city, and that city is a very important pilgrimage city. But you will see if you go to any very old temple-based city, the temple is in the heart of the town, and everything is developed around it, but it is in a haphazard way. If that is going to be the case, and you create a new corridor, you say that you want to redevelop the city, what is going to first happen is everything around it is going to be destroyed so that it can open up this temple itself. But what happens in this way is that this is the form of tourism in which the people who are very, very dependent on this temple for their money or for their basic income is now gone. So therefore, this is called a anti-poor approach, in which that the lowest strata, the people who are the most dependent, get impacted the most. And the pro-poor concept is going to be first rehabilitate the people and then destroy, or also have something in mind for them before rejuvenating that city itself. Okay. Right. Let's move to the mains question. Discuss the importance of the Prasad scheme in heritage and cultural conservation. So this is a very standard type of question which can come. So it's talking about heritage and cultural conservation, talking about importance and the scheme itself. So introduction, body, conclusion. In the introduction, we have to talk about, obviously we have to talk about the Prasad scheme being in the news, current affairs, 12 cities already in it. Now, how does it help in heritage and cultural conservation? So here you are going to talk about the various aspects. So you will say that the Prasad scheme talks about rejuvenation. And when it talks about rejuvenation, it talks about facelift of the city. Then it talks about preservation and conservation of the cultural heritage also. More than that, if these old cities are from time to time in a way redeveloped in a better way, that would in turn help in making them sustainable and also preserve the heritage and the cultural identity of that area for a very long time. Because if the city becomes unsustainable, there's a sewage issues, there's water issues, too much pollution, makes no sense. Therefore, what this scheme actually does is, via intervention from the government of India, the city is made a permanent or much more sustainable tourism site, pilgrimage center over a long period of time via phased way of redevelopment. So conclusion is going to be, the importance is very, very important, that the Prasad scheme is a very important scheme of the government of India, which makes sure that heritage is conserved and cultural identities and cultural centers of India are preserved in a very, very important and in a very phased, sustainable and prioritized way. Use the words which the scheme uses: priority, preservation, rejuvenation and sustainability. This way you can understand the larger concept also. Okay, done. Can we move to the fourth topic? Equally interesting. Raghu, pro-poor tourism doesn't mean that you make it affordable for the poor sections, because that you're just using it on the reverse way. It's not pro-poor tourism. It's because tourism development is also very, very important. You can always have dharamshalas which are pro-poor doesn't mean you make it affordability. It's not about affordability. It's about redevelopment under Prasad would mean develop in certain way that it is good for everyone in the city, not just the people who are the hotel owners or the people who are transportation based, getting their income in that regard. Okay. Fourth topic has been in the news from time to time. See, inclusivity is something which will always be there. If you make the pilgrimage center better, it will obviously become affordable for everybody. So that is implied, but it's more about this concept of tourism in that sense. Okay. Sunil, why are we discussing it right now? Because of the addition. Understand this. When something in the news, this is how you understand current affairs. See, current affairs and static are not separate to each other. They're always together. When they're always together, you need to understand that basically, current affairs dictates what static is going to come. So you need to understand why are we doing this topic as much as what are we doing in this topic, because of the fact that of a new addition in that sense. Okay. Now, fourth topic comes out of the Yojana issue of December 2022. An interesting one, has a lot of articles, but I chose this because this one is the most relevant. They've already asked about the parliament. Now it becomes Central Vista redevelopment project, has been in the news, has been a lot of controversy also over it. It's a project which has close to, which will cost you and me technically 20,000 crores. So we should know what it is and why it isn't and why it should be there. So everybody is clear till this point. Can we move on to the fourth topic? Come on. Okay. How it will cost us? Because Amit, the government of India receipt, the income of the government of India is our income tax. So you and me pay for everything what the government does. So it is going to cost you and me 20,000 crores. Okay. So what is technically the Central Vista? This stretch, which starts at Rashtrapati Bhavan and ends at the War Memorial, this 3.2-kilometer stretch is called the Central Vista. Central Vista includes a lot of very important buildings. The Rashtrapati Bhavan itself. Then you have the Parliament building. You have North Block, South Block. Then you have the whole Rajpath. You have the National Archive. And thereafter India Gate. And then the now new made War Memorial in that sense. Now, the government, and now for at least 2 years now, went for what is called the Central Vista Redevelopment Project. The recent controversy came with the new capital which was put in on the new Parliament building with regards to the lions and how they were looking. That led to a question coming in the mains examination itself with regards to more in architecture. But what is the basic project? What is the project itself? Generally, what is it? You need to know the basic contours and why do we need it? Because UPSC can ask you why. Why? So, see, the Central Vista, the history is very interesting. 1911, the announcement of Delhi Darbar and the fact that because nationalism had become too much as a big problem for the British in Calcutta, and Calcutta had become the epicenter of nationalism itself, it was said that in 1911 and specifically technically 1912, India's capital would be shifted from Calcutta to Delhi. So 1911 is the year in which it was announced. 1912 it was physically done. Hardin bombing 1912. So 1912 was the date which was 1911, 1912 was the date which was decided, year which was decided, in which British India's capital would be shifted from Calcutta to Delhi. So two architects were called to develop what we today call as New Delhi. One is called Edwin Lutyens, and the second one is called Herbert Baker. A lot of people know about Lutyens, but don't know too much about Baker. Baker had already made a lot of things in South Africa, and the South African North Block, South Block, or what is called their parliament buildings and their secretariats are exactly identical to how our North Block and South Block looks, because Baker made both of them, both in South Africa and in India. Therefore, very identical in that sense. And Lutyens is known for the development of the Rashtrapati Bhavan and the whole MP quarters as we know it. So basically, Central Vista was envisaged by both Baker and Lutyens that we will develop one road which links the Viceroy's Palace, which is Rashtrapati Bhavan, with India Gate, which is technically a war memorial for the Third Afghan War and the First World War. So basically, they wanted to create a major road which could be helpful in that sense. Now, the basic point of the matter was that it took time. It took time. It took time because it was only in 1931. It was only in 1931 that this Central Vista was actually inaugurated. So it took time. Only in the CDM period it was inaugurated, but it started in 1911. By 31 inaugurated. So as I said, the story of the Central Vista is very interesting because of the shifting of the capital, Baker and Lutyens thinking about it, and Baker being a very important person with regards to development of the Central Vista itself. And when they developed it, three things were made. First, what is called the Central Legislative Assembly, which becomes or is the parliament itself. They made the Rashtrapati Bhavan, which was technically called the Viceroy's Palace. They also made what is called North Block and South Block. What today North Block and South Block is, total 55 ministries in India, 55 central ministries are housed in the North Block and the South Block. South Block also has the PMO, which is Prime Minister's office, and North Block has most of the ministries, defense, finance, all are in North Block. So 55 different ministries are housed within the North and South Block. You also have the old Central Secretariat. It's called Central Secretariat. Central Secretariat is the staff of these ministries sit in the Central Secretariat. So if you've ever been to Delhi, you could, if you go from the Vayu Bhavan, which is the Air Force office, you go towards Central Secretariat on your right. It is also a metro station. Then you will see a little bit further, you will see the Parliament building, then the whole Rajpath itself, the National Archives, Rashtrapati Bhavan, and the two buildings which you see on the right and the left is North Block, South Block. North Block has three very important ministries: MHA, which is Home Affairs, Defense and Finance. South Block houses the PM. So it's a very important area. Central Vista is very, very important in that sense. Parliament, North Block, South Block, National Archive, Rashtrapati Bhavan. And as I said, developed by Baker and Lutyens, 31 it was inaugurated. I hope that the history is clear. Can we accept that much? Because I'm not going to repeat that. Okay. So 31 properly developed. Now the problem is that these buildings technically were now developed close to 100 years before, or close to 110 years in the present context. So these buildings are old, quite old in that sense. So if you look at the Central Vista project, what it tries to do is, it's trying to make sure that certain problems related to this old 31 1911 date, if we take 1930 date, the basic point is this very old construction is creating a lot of problems for the government of India. So what basically the project is, you have the old parliament. So they want to first create a new parliament. And the new parliament, interestingly, the old parliament is circle. They want a triangular one. The new parliament is going to be somewhere here. Somewhere here, just next to the old parliament. This is the first major project. Why? Because the old parliament is too cramped, very narrow seating space, The problem is that it does not have the right infrastructure. It does not have the right security measures. Most of the building is now in a very bad shape. So the justification of the government is that we need a parliament which represents the concept of New India. The concept of New India. So this is a very old building, makes no sense. And there are, if you go to the website of the Central Vista project, you can see that the buildings have been, the building is a British building. So very high ceiling, the CCTVs are having a lot of blind spots. The building has now been demolished so much to add a lot of things that it makes no sense. So basically, old parliament building becomes the new parliament building. Thereafter, they also want to convert the north and south block into two museums. And the concept is going to be, north block is going to be a museum of India since 1857 and south block of India till 1857. And if they are going to move out the ministries out of north and south block, they want to create one central secretariat which has the capacity to hold 55 to 70 ministries. And the concept is that it will have all urban amenities and it will be people friendly. The problem is that you and me, if we have to go to any ministry, you also have to jump around. So Krishi Ministry, Agriculture Ministry, the Ministry of Home Affairs, the Ministry of External Affairs, the Labor Ministry, all are at different locations in Delhi. They want to centrally put all of them in one. Second, what they want to do is they want to bring all the ministries together under modern amenities, in which the different cramped spaces in which the old buildings of the British buildings in which these offices have been cramped into, they can come out, and it represents the modern way of administration. So it's an administrative reorganization in that sense. So the first is new parliament, second is one central secretariat. Thereafter, they also want, and they've already done this now, which is to change the way the Rajpath looks, or what we call as the Central Vista itself. This area, Central Vista, they have rejuvenated. If you've been to Delhi now, you would know that this has now actually been totally changed. It has been made more people friendly. It has been made in a better way so that it represents what again means modern amenities, no traffic jams, is the pedestrians were at the risk of being hit by the cars. It has been now made more people friendly in that sense. They are also creating another two things, which is new Prime Minister's office, which is separated from the Central Secretariat itself, and new Prime Minister and Vice President's residence. President, you have Vice President, President residence. So coming out of what we used to call 7 RCR, now Lok Manya Marg, the basic point is the residence would be on both sides of Rashtrapati Bhavan. Therefore, all executives together in that sense. And the last and the major aspect which is left in this is that they want to make sure that all of these buildings represent modern architecture, modern amenities, and modern security measures. So basically, center, yes, Kartavya Path it is called, but when we are talking about the 1931 or the old design, it's called Rajpath. The basic point of the matter is Rashtrapati Bhavan remains as it is, two new residences, one office for the Prime Minister, then new Parliament building, new Central Vista, and the fact that they want a new secretariat. These are the basic components. These are the basic components in the Central Vista scheme itself. Now, you need to know it because each one of them has a certain connotation and a certain aspect. When we talk about modern infrastructure would mean that, see, if you've been to any of these buildings, you would know that British buildings were not made with modern features. For example, very high ceiling they have. So the AC doesn't technically work. When you have very high ceilings, there is a security risk of putting a CCTV, then the blind spot increases. The communication systems within all of these buildings is very bad. The manpower of the central secretariat has increased, but the central secretariat cannot be expanded. These are heritage buildings also. You can't touch them too much also. So there's a lot of issues. So there is both pros and cons. The basic point of the matter is the government understanding is we want to create an administrative setup which represents New India. But the problem here is that the timing was not right of this. Though everything is going forward in that regard, 20,000 crore rupees is the estimated budget of this whole scheme. Now, the basic point of the matter is this was done just before the COVID wave. And more than that, there have been different agencies which have pointed out that 20,000 crores for 3 kilometers and that to 6 buildings. How many public residences, public buildings, public amenities could have been created out of the same money is another question altogether. Now, the point of the matter is, as a UPSC aspirant, you can't just go into the examination and write that the government wasted 20,000 crores. That you can't do, obviously. So, what you need to do is you need a balanced way. There is justification for all these moves. A good thing about it is that it is not destroying the existing, which is old parliament, North Block, South Block still will stand. They will be changed into whatever museum they want to make it. But the basic point of the matter is timing was something which made it a controversial aspect in the larger perspective. So, do you understand the history and the basic concept of the project itself? Do you? Yes? So, let's read it out and then move on. Yes. So, the Union Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs is doing it. Triangular shaped parliament building next to the existing one. Construction of common central secretariat, revamping of 3 kilometers long Rajpath or Kartavya Path from Rashtrapati Bhavan to India Gate. Includes the conversion of North and South Block into museums and a central Vista Avenue, which is the whole road itself. Accommodate the offices of the various ministries, 87 storied building they are technically planning, and Nirmal, what is called Nirman Bhavan, Krishi Bhavan and Vigyan Bhavan will all be demolished to create the space for all these things. Now, the first aspect is, why is there need for revamping? Why is there need for revamping? The need for revamping comes from the fact that inadequate facilities, infrastructure, spatial distribution. Firstly, in India and in Delhi, if you will ever go, all the different ministries are in different locations. So if you have to take one application, spatial means space, what is called the way they are placed. So if you have to go between different ministries, it would take you an hour. More than that, it would need a lot of moving around within New Delhi. So what they want is centralized ministerial control, so that you don't need 5 people to just take one file from one ministry to the other ministry. You can just take it from one floor to the other, which makes a lot of sense that way. Which makes a lot of sense. Old buildings will not be touched. They will remain the way they are. They will be changed into museum. Then it's about inadequate facilities. Inadequate facilities means that, see, the parliament building as of right now does not have the bandwidth, does not have the structural integrity to expand and not even house the basic, what is called new type of furniture or even infrastructure. So if you've ever seen a picture, you would see that the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha are very cramped together and people sit very close to each other. And they want bigger ones with a lot of modern amenities in that sense. And yes, delimitation is also coming. So the seats of the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha both would increase, and therefore there needs to be space for more MPs also. That is also the case. So there's a lot of merit in doing it. But as I said, the demerit being the price tag, and second, that did you need it at the time when India needed more money into the health sector or the education sector than just revamping the buildings which still can work for 2 more years. So as a UPSC aspirant, can't criticize the government too much. So you have to support the basic pros of this. Cons are there. It's a very big ambitious project, will be completed by 2024. And the basic point of the matter is, it was done at a time when India was under a lot of stress and there was a lot of need for building hospitals rather than new secretariats. And that is the basic criticism of this whole project in that regard. Okay. Maybe the next is going to be Supreme Court and court infrastructure. Why not? We already have a lot of things for that. Okay. The topic is clear. Can I move to the question? You understand the pros and cons generally? Okay. In light of recent controversy over the Central Vista redevelopment project, discuss the pros and cons of this project. Very simple question, but can catch you off guard in the examination. So introduction, body, conclusion. The two controversies are, first 20,000 crores, and the second controversy is the Lion capital on the new parliament. The way the lions, their expression was changed, was one of the controversial elements of that new capital. Okay, I'm going to talk about pros and cons again. Don't worry about that. Intro, body, conclusion. In the introduction, we are going to very simply, we are going to talk about the Central Vista project. That it was introduced as form of revamping the 3.2-kilometer stretch in New Delhi. And then in the body, you are going to talk about the components, which is new parliament, new central secretariat, and the concept of the Central Vista changing, the PMO's office, and the new residences for the PM and the Vice President as part of the whole concept. Now I will talk about the pros. Pros is that all these buildings are old, very scattered around in Delhi, will come together, will bring in a lot of centralization in administration and in movement of paper and information. So it's a good thing. Second, new facilities, modern facilities. Third, the cramping of space, the security issues, security concerns. Another important aspect is Delhi comes under seismic zone, which is it is prone to earthquakes, and these are very old buildings, and they are not made with earthquake proof material also. So if today, for example, the Lok Sabha is in house and there's a earthquake, major earthquake, and MPs die because of that, it will be an issue. So you need to know, or you need to create certain buildings which now are made with modern amenities and modern infrastructure, modern technology in that sense. Cons: cost, timing, and when India needs investment into health and education sector, did we need investment into buildings which are already there and just making new buildings? But in the conclusion, you have to say that the pros are the ones which outweigh the cons, and when they outweigh the cons, it is a very important project for the government of India, and it will become the face of new India in that sense. Make sense? Museums can be written in conclusion body, whatever you want to write. Why new parliament? Because you can't expand the parliament, and there's a chance that Lok Sabha will, obviously, India's population is increasing, so the Lok Sabha will also expand. Okay, can we move to the last topic then? Okay. The company which is redeveloping parliament is Tata company. It's a Tata conglomerate. 2, 3, 4 companies, Larsen and Toubro, Tata coming together. Okay. Last topic, 9 new products granted GI status. Now see, it's a very easy, very simple topic, but students complicate it too much because of this. Geographical indicator. Now the point of the matter is very simple, very simple. What is GI? What is GI? Because within intellectual property rights, there are different types of what we call as indicators. For example, you've seen this. This is called copyright. Then you would have seen this. This is called trademark. So for example, any book would have, it would say copyrighted to the publisher. Then it says, for example, Nike, trademark, TM. It would also say R, registered, trademark. Coca-Cola, then trademark. So there are different types of intellectual property right indicators. Out of this also comes what is called GI, geographical indicator. But it is not that stringent as, for example, trademark or registered or copyright, but it is equally important. So what is GI? GI is a recognition which is given by the Government of India under the Geographical Indications Act of 1999 by the Registrar of GI, and it can be given to Indian or to a foreign national also, or a foreign product also in that regard. And it is something which is given under the WTO rules, under what is called TRIPS, trade related aspects of intellectual property rights. TRIPS, it's called TRIPS. And it is recognized under the Paris Convention of Industrial Design. Now, the basic point is I've said a lot of things, but then what is GI? GI technically is a recognition of quality, of characteristic, which is there in a product or in an item because of its geographical origin. Because of its geographical origin. For example, something called Tirupati Laddu. What does this mean? The GI of Tirupati Laddu means that laddu, that sweet, the way it is made in Tirupati, it is made nowhere else. And the quality and the characteristics of that laddu is linked to its geographical location. So, just giving you an example, you have Mysore silk. So the silk which is found in or made in Mysore has a certain characteristic because of being produced in Mysore. So please understand one thing, which is that GI is not something which is linked to individuals or is linked to the fact that it is a trademark. It is a recognition given by the government that yes, Darjeeling tea, which was the first GI which India gave, Darjeeling tea means that the tea which is made in Darjeeling has a certain quality, has a certain recognition because it is made in Darjeeling. But then what does it give to the person? It gives three things. First, recognition. Second, nobody else can sell tea saying it is Darjeeling tea if it is not originating from Darjeeling. So this recognition is given in a legal way, that I can't be selling Darjeeling tea from Delhi. That I produce technically tea will not be produced in Delhi, but I produce that tea in, for example, Coorg, and I sell it saying that it is Darjeeling tea. Then Coorg coffee cannot be sold saying that it was produced in Assam. It gives the producer recognition in international and Indian markets, therefore saying that the quality is assured. So for a consumer, it is a surety that the quality and the characteristic is right. For the producer, it gives recognition. There is no, remember one thing, there is no legal basis. So you can't drag a person to the court for using the name. You can stop it. You can, it's an impediment. It's not somewhere wherein Nike name was used, the trademark has been infringed, so you can take somebody to the WTO. It's not like that. It is something which only gives you recognition, very limited legal redressal with regards to infringement, but it's about quality assurance and characteristic. So please understand this very, very clearly. Recognized by the World Trade Organization under TRIPS, trade related aspects of intellectual property rights, and the TRIPS and the Paris Convention technically govern GI. All countries, all WTO members can give GI. India gives GI to its own products also, to 32, as of right now, 32 different products which are there from outside India also, and that gives them recognition in India itself. So it's about recognition, authenticity, it's about characteristics and quality. It's technically not about legal protection. It's not like patents. Patent infringement is a very, very big thing. It's not like patents. But the fact is that if you see the GI tag, you know that it is the same product you're looking for. Getting my aspect? Who gives the registration? The Government of India under the Act via the Registrar of GI. Okay, very good, perfect. So the Union government has granted GI tag to 9 products across the country. What is GI? Geographical indication means a particular item that has originated from a particular region only. The GI tag is an indication of its definite geographical territory and origin. And remember one thing, GI is given to regions, is given to a location. It is not given to individuals. So basically, if you cannot, after doing a detailed analysis, if you cannot ascertain the geographical location, then the GI is not given. So you need to say that the characteristic, the quality is linked to the geography where it is made. The use of geographical indication may act as a certification, protection that the product possesses specific qualities and is made according to traditional methods or enjoys a certain reputation due to its geographical indication or origin. Geographical indication, origin. I'll give you the list of 9 products, but I'll tell you the problem in GI. It ensures that none other than those registered as authorized users are allowed to use the product name. So Darjeeling tea can only be sold by a producer of tea in Darjeeling. No one else can use it, and they can move to the courts if needed to remove it. Now, within the larger story of IPR, intellectual property rights, where does GI come through? So you have copyright. Copyright is mostly about intellectual property, which is related to literature, which is related to books and different items. Then you have industrial property. Industrial property is then further divided into patents, industrial design and trade secrets. And you have then what is called distinctive signs. Under distinctive signs, you have trademark and then GI. So it is technically a brother or sister of trademark, but the difference between these two is trademark is much more stringently pursued and legally protected than GI. Trademark has nothing to do with geography. GI has everything to do with geography in that regard. So this is something which I always do, is to tell you this. Now I'll show you the list of 9. Everybody is following me till this point? Yes? Okay. Now the point is, I'll give you the list of 9, no issues at all. But never ever do the mistake of learning GIs, because there are close to 400 plus, 432, 433. I'll give you the data also. 400 plus GIs. IPR means intellectual property right. The problem is there is no one in this country or in this world who can remember 400 first names and then 400 cities or states. 800 facts is not something to be learned for one question. So the mains question can be done without learning it. So don't be a fool. Don't. I'll give you the list. I'll give you the spatial distribution. You want a 400 list, I'll give you that also. But it's not worth it. It is actually not worth it. Just make sure that you understand the concept. Nothing more, nothing less. Can we agree to this? I'm showing you the list, but can we agree to this much? Okay, perfect. So the new additions, Gamocha of Assam, the Tandoor red gram of Telangana, the Karpo apricot of Ladakh, the Alibag white onion of Maharashtra, thereafter 5 from Kerala. 5 from Kerala. Now the point is, this is a meaningless list to me, because I can't remember these and then see, there are 432 GI tags. And what you can rather remember, is this, which is that top 5 states with maximum GIs: Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, and Kerala. Karnataka, Tamil Nadu have highest number of GIs, which followed by Kerala 35, Uttar Pradesh 34, Maharashtra 31. 401 are Indian products, 31 are foreign origin. So this list technically has no meaning for you because 432 are already there. So why would you not learn the other 400? This is the basic point. Yes, Maharashtra is the fifth one. Now the basic point is that is why don't bother. When I teach it in art and culture also, I tell you the concept, but I never ask you to learn it because it makes no sense. Now the point is how question comes is the way it is better. Because before I go to the question, first point, are you getting the point of GI? Gokul, I saw that it is not Karnataka, Maharashtra. Okay. Now, the basic point of the matter is this is the type of question which comes in the mains, and you need to know this type of approach to it. How do GI tags mitigate and help in conservation of culture and intangible heritage? So it's about how. How does it help mitigate and help in conservation of culture? So introduction, body, conclusion. After this, I'll just give you a summary of what we've done, all 5 topics, and then I'll take questions. Right? Okay. Anubhav will get a chance on 16 January. The people, I'll do ancient medieval art and culture again. 16 January batch is with me. Okay. Yes, Ujjwal. All batches now, ancient medieval art and culture is me only. Don't worry about that. Intro, body, conclusion. In the introduction, you're going to talk about the concept of GI. The geographical indicator comes under intellectual property, right? Comes under WTO, comes under TRIPS, and is recognition of certain quality. Body. First part, how does that recognition help? It helps in authenticity. It helps in geographical quality. It helps in recognition. And now you will link these things with how does it help in mitigating culture and intangible heritage. Intangible heritage means what cannot be given form or skills. So it helps in mitigation and help because it protects and gives recognition to skills which would there, if not recognized, would have become obscure. People are doing it. It provides livelihood. With recognition comes the market. With market comes the revenue. With revenue comes the income of the people. More than that, it also gives recognition to these things outside India. Therefore, it makes it more export worthy. Therefore, it helps in making culture relevant. And in conclusion, very simply say that GI tags as of right now are the most important means of giving recognition to certain kinds of aspects related to culture and what we call as intellectual property rights, intangible skills of the people involved. So with this, we finish what we have to do for today. But before you leave the session, what have we done today? We've done 5 topics. First, we understood the concept of the border dispute between Maharashtra and Karnataka, which was based on an historical understanding of where Belgaum should be and the problem and violence happening in and around it. Thereafter, we tried to understand what is smuggling, why is there smuggling, what is the geography of it, the eastern sector, what is being smuggled, and how is it indicative of an illegal economy. Third, we understood the Prasad project, Srisalem city being added to it, 12 cities already, 13th added, which is the technically Mallikarjun Jyotirlinga temple, and the aspect related to how that Prasad scheme helps in heritage conservation. Thereafter, we understood a new project which has been in controversy because of its scale and money, but is very, very important, the Central Vista scheme, the history, and the new project which is there. And the last topic which we've done is 9 GI products. As I said, the 9 are irrelevant to us, but the aspect related to GI, what it is, and how does it get placed in the larger intellectual property right regime is much, much more important. I hope that all these 5 topics are totally clear in your mind, and at least you are able to understand how current affairs interacts with art and culture and how these topics can be asked in the mains examination. Yes, if it's clear, thank you so much. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for being here so late in the night. Other than that, I'm here to take questions. A very simple question which everybody has. Yes, 16th January, the batch which starts ancient medieval art and culture, morning batch, it is me only. And on the same, the evening batch, world history is also me. So from 16 January, morning ancient medieval art and culture I will do, and evening batch world history is with me. So don't have to worry with regards to that. All batches which are coming through are going to be this only. So thank you. Take care. Good night if you're leaving the session, and I will see you very soon on 6th. First on with CNA on Sunday, but on 16 January with ancient medieval art and culture. Morning batch I will take, evening batch I will also take. Okay. This is all BHLP. BHLP. Okay. Comprehensive news analysis, CNA, Hindu analysis, YouTube. Okay. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Thank you. Thank you. Good night. Live time of CNA is 10 a.m. How does GI improve lives? See, if, for example, your area has the best type of potatoes, but it is competing with everybody in the market, but your potatoes get mixed up with other potatoes. Now, if I give a GI to this potato, it will be sold in the market as a specific potato from a village, and that will not be mixed up with others, and people will recognize the quality. So that gives you assured income. Okay. Hindu newspaper as a CNA is the same thing. Good night. Good night. Good night. Conclusion for Central Vista, please, Ms. Misbah, make sure pros are outweighing the cons, and it is a very important way of creating new India. Okay. Perfect. So thank you. Thank you. Please do give the PTS exams. They are important. As I said, 5 topics, mains oriented. I will see you next month with the same, if not in the class itself. But it was a pleasure teaching you. Good to see you all again. Thank you. Take care and bye-bye. Good night. World history is in evening batch. Morning batch is ancient medieval art and culture. See you.